Wade, good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. I don't think we've ever recorded on a Saturday, let alone exchanged the number of texts that we have like this morning. But
That's right.
WTI is a huge topic this week. And I don't know, what are we sitting at? Just under 90, I think, as of right now on Saturday morning. So
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was a huge run this week.
my projection was sitting at like 150 in the next like 6 weeks. But your take was a little more interesting, or you had seen some other posts that were, I think, higher than mine.
Oh yeah. I'm not taking a $200 a barrel prognostication as my own. That's just that. I mean, that's absolutely insane. But I mean, it was due to the conflict and everything going on over there. I mean, the war. It's an absolutely insane time in oil and gas. I think it was the biggest WTI gain since it started trading. Biggest one
Yeah.
week WTI gain since they started trading, which is really insane. And I think, like, from what I've heard even on the U.S. land side, I think there's operators out there kind of taking advantage of it to hedge in additional production. And so, even though I mean, this conflict, halfway across the world is 100% affecting the way that people are doing business. I think every day right now, it's the whole shutdown of the what is it? How you say it? Hormuz Strait. Like, I saw
Yes,
something that they
it's like Hormuz. I think it's just Hormuz, yeah.
okay, Hormuz. All right. I've really been reading about it, not watching much news on it, but man, seeing that go down to something like 2 tankers a day passing through there is now the average. I think it was closer to 150 before all of this started. If that continues, like, I mean, your 150 is probably spot on, and if this went on for, I think, 6 weeks, it's probably going to hit it way before then. Like, it's just insane.
Yeah, it is. I mean, so there was 2 Josh Young, he's a bison interest. I've never met the guy, but I like to follow his stuff, and I think whether you agree with him or disagree with him, he made a really good point about the infrastructure. So, as the infrastructure in the Middle East gets destroyed, I mean, that becomes an even bigger catalyst for oil prices to increase. I just, and I'm thinking about that. So yeah, we got tankers. Tankers is one thing, but infrastructure is a whole nother thing. So, I mean, if it
Well,
takes
and
time to
that's the
rebuild infrastructure over there, it's yeah,
kind of the crazy thing about it. I mean, you've got these choke points, right? So, like, if you can't get your oil to the market, if you can't offload it, I mean, your tanks fill up pretty
yeah.
quickly. And so, like,
Mhm.
you're starting to see people, uh, you know, declare force majeure on, like, LNG or oil. I mean, I think Kuwait's already starting to cut back on a lot of their production, so they're starting
Yeah.
to choke back or shut in wells just because they've got no place to go. If they can't deliver, if they can't offload, then it just starts backing up throughout the entire system. And you're just going to see disruptions and a lot of things, and it's going to cause prices to skyrocket for the short term. But I also feel like just as soon as the
Yeah.
conflict settles down or something settled, it's going to go back down just as quickly. I don't know that anything has tangibly changed in the long term, but
Unless there's a severe, damage to the infrastructure, kind of, like that's an
right,
interesting. That's the one thing. It's like, how long does it take to rebuild something if it's been bombed or destroyed, right? So, and now that I've said the word bomb, YouTube's gonna hate this, but X will still let me post it. So what? Like,
that's the
let's
truth of
talk
what's
just real
going
quick
on,
because I
right?
want to understand. It is the truth, yeah, 100%. And I just want to talk real quick about like what does this mean for the average operator, oil and gas, field services company? Like, are we going to see like, I mean, like, okay, from your perspective, right? If you're drilling wells, like, I mean, obviously, we want to get as many, rigs up and running as possible to take advantage of
Right.
this. And like Tejano posted, now you might have seen like he had that AI generated image of all those rigs that
I
got
don't
like that were
I don't
stood
know
up
if that was
like in
AI
like
generated. I think that was actually
maybe.
like H&P's yard when they stacked all the rigs
Okay.
during COVID.
Okay. Okay. So maybe it's an older photo, but it's like, the
Right.
joke is like, man, they got all these, they're drilling like, 100 feet away from each other, which is,
Right.
it's just not, makes zero sense. If you are in the business, you know that. But what does this mean for the smaller local company or the operator that's, trying to take advantage of what's going on? Because I mean, we really went overnight, and it just shows you how prepared you have to be to go from, nothing to, oh my God, I got to get as much out of this as I can.
Right. Well, I think in the long term, I would say it's right now. I mean, it's so volatile. I don't think you're going to see people picking up rigs to try and chase this. Like, Like I
Okay.
was saying, just as
All right.
quick as it goes up, it can go back down. On a smaller
Yeah.
scale, though, I think what you could see, if you've got operators out there who haven't hedged their forward production already, maybe they leave
Mhm.
some of their volume exposed to daily prices and stuff. I think you'll see some of those people
Yeah.
open up chokes and try and get more production out. I think you'll definitely see that. A
Okay.
lot of your smaller mom and pops, I don't think that they're using really tight choke management, all the time. But I'll tell you, if
Mhm.
they think, whereas maybe working over a well wasn't economic before at, $40 or $50 a barrel, there's tons of those workovers that were not economic at that. And if you think that
Yeah.
this is going to last for 2 or 3 weeks and that will, that 2 or 3 weeks of extra sales could cover your workover cost. And then from there, you've just got, better daily production. Like I think you could
Yeah.
definitely see some of those rigs start getting out there and getting work done because those are much shorter cycle times from activity to increased production. I'm not saying
Okay.
that there's just tons of volume out there for that, but for smaller operators, that could be a pretty significant increase in their
Yeah.
uh, in
Right, yeah, their long term gains could improve from that, which is good. So, yeah, I mean, I
that
think there's like it's funny, it feels like it's very barbelled. You have this maybe like this, hey, we can get something done in 2 to 3 weeks, let's get it going. On the other side of it, looking at, for example, Diamondback had their quarterly earnings that came out 2 weeks ago, and, I mean, they've been managing everything so well, and again, this is not a financial advice show, episode, anything, but if you look at what Diamondback's doing from their cash flow is just off. It's just amazing. Like the way they've managed that company is great. And the other part of it though is like look at Sable on the other end of it, offshore in here in California, and you've got some news where Trump's like they're gonna put in they're basically going to say like, look, I don't, doesn't matter what the California government says, like the federal government's going to step in. And again, this happened 3 months ago with Sable and the price went up. And then
right.
yesterday, it shoots up 34%. So there's some
Yep.
like bigger pieces here that haven't really fallen into place. And from a political side, it feels like maybe because of war, which is obviously a terrible reason for any of this to happen, but it could actually some of these things could actually just finally take shape and kind of go the direction that this presidency wants it to go. So, I don't know. We'll see. I'm eager to see what Monday brings and the rest of the couple weeks. But
Yeah, whenever I think what this really just drives home, like, I mean, when you see this kind of volatility on this kind of a time frame, I mean, just so quick, I think it just drives home the importance of energy production to just how our current world works. You know, whenever a conflict halfway across the world can affect what's going on in rural Oklahoma the way that it is, or the United States the way that it is, it just really underlines how reliant we are on oil and gas to kind of
yeah,
sustain this quality life we've got.
yep, totally. Awesome. Well, hey man, it's been great. I got a busy Saturday ahead with sports and driving up the freeway and doing stuff with the kids. Yeah, I'm excited to I don't know, we should do this more often on just like a random impromptu, but I know we
All
got
right.
another show recording next week and all good stuff. Yeah, I guess to anyone who's made it to the end of this video, thanks for listening. Again, not financial advice, do your own research. We'd love to hear your comments in the comments and maybe we'll address them in the next show.